Another contemporary president that I think has mythological status in this same way is Obama. Because even people who don't like him, if they're at least charitable, can accept and see that he was a pretty brilliant statesman, even if he played for the wrong team. But how do historians view his presidency? Did he have accomplishments in the sense that the earlier presidents did, or
Yeah, he had one undeniable accomplishment, and it's actually the thing that his haters hate the most, which is that he managed to show that an African American could get elected to the presidency, right? And that's extraordinary, right? I mean, it's not a policy accomplishment; it's a personal accomplishment, but it sparked a counter reaction, right? It sparked a backlash, which led to Trump. I think I look back, and of course, we should have known that after Obama, we were going to get someone like Trump because there was going to be a backlash. But that also tells us how hard it was for this. My kids, Robinson, grew up with Obama as the president they knew when they were small. For them, it's natural that a president could be black. I grew up in a world where that was still unthinkable, right? And so that is a huge accomplishment. That is he is a ceiling breaker. He is someone who opened space. I think some of the other things he sought to accomplish, some of them he did, some of them he didn't, right? He did seek to use the federal government to address the needs of those who didn't have health care. And Obamacare did some of that. It's far from perfect, right? But he accomplished, in that sense, what Bill Clinton didn't accomplish. Right? Clinton tried to do that and did, right? So he got that done. He wanted to make the United States more of a multilateral player in the world, to get out of Iraq. He did that, but he didn't get out of Afghanistan. So he gets a kind of mixed record on that. He wanted to bring the country together at home. He did not do that. I'm not sure he could have. I'm not saying that's necessarily his failing, but it's a failing of his administration. And some would say he didn't do enough to prepare the country for the divisions that would remain. That was also a failing, right? So I think it's a mixed record there. But I mean, let's recognize how difficult this was for him. And I think he's a classic example of why I think it's an impossible presidency, because Robinson, it's hard to come up with someone more talented than Barack Obama. And to see someone that talented, it's humbling for us, right? To see someone that talented have so much trouble.
Mm-hmm. And one irony I sort of picked up on in the book is that while the president, and this is also the case for Obama, commands the greatest military on earth, and force is perhaps the most effective way of getting what one wants, the ways in which a president or Obama can use the military are extremely restricted, both at home and abroad. And that was a big player in his presidency.
Absolutely. And we were talking about special interests before. Let's recognize that there are lots of special interests around the military that make it very hard. Bill Clinton wanted to make the military open to those of different sexual preferences, gay, lesbian, LGBTQ. And that took a lot of effort, even though he was president, right? And in fact, it didn't really work until Obama was president. And there's a whole industry around the military. So it's not a conspiracy, but it is to say, just because you're president doesn't mean you really get to tell the military what to do all the time.
Another problem with President Obama's presidency was the impossibility of the presidency as determined by our expectations, and the expectations that arise from the promises that the president is compelled to make in order to win the election. And Barack Obama was hope. And even though the presidency was impossible then, if it's impossible now, because a candidate who doesn't make outlandish promises won't win, they're compelled to do so. And hope is the most outlandish. I mean, it shouldn't be, but it's the most blanket outlandish promise that can be made.
That's really well said. And I would also say that we imparted that, especially his supporters, right? I mean, I remember at that time when he was elected president in 2009, 2008, started his presidency in 2009. I was teaching at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And the night he was elected, students came out and were demonstrating all across campus, but they were not protesting in anger. They were out shouting in joy, and they were singing the national anthem. I mean, this was extraordinary to watch, right? And what was it? They thought he was going to end racism. And then many of them became disappointed. They thought it was his failing that he hadn't ended racism, right? No one president's ever going to end racism, right? He contributed to a lessening of racism. I think, as I said, my kids and others can imagine a black man as president, but the entrenched prejudices of our society, he wasn't able to eliminate those. It might have made them worse because he threatened people, right? But there was this hope. I remember people were saying a post-racial America. And so some of that came from us, right? We want it. We want a Messiah. And part of my point in the book is presidents are not messiahs. They can't be.